Welcome back to another episode of Heavy Wireless, part of the Packet Pushers podcast network. Today, I'm talking with Francois, and Francois gave a presentation at WLPC on a new client database, kind of an add-on to what Michael Habano did, many years ago that we've all used for a long time. And it was a fantastic presentation, and I thought it would make a great podcast. So, Francois, how are you doing today?
Very good, Kit. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I appreciate the invitation.
Your presentation was like world class. You gave a master class on how to give a presentation. Your graphics were clean, very easy to understand. Your pacing was good. But what I liked best about it was you ended up with a database that the whole community can use. Back us up. Why did you even start this project?
Yeah, that's interesting conversation. But we had it started with really Mike's Albano's work because I noticed that it wasn't getting up to date very much, and I talked to Mike a little bit, and he got busy and focused on different things, and like you said, his database was very useful. People would go over there all the time to understand client capabilities, and that's one that was the topic of my presentation, is try to understand why, as Wi-Fi engineer, we need to understand the capabilities of our client devices, and it's very important for the work that we do. And it's not an information that you can find very easily just by looking around at the device specifications, or the tools provided by the testing agencies. So the idea was just to take on, continue Mike's work, but my focus was also to make it a little bit more modern, so we could have it up to date. We could involve people in making it up to date and keeping it up to date. And also we could have an easier manner to consult the database. So that was like one of my focuses, to build like an API, so we could ingest the data automatically, and then also an API to consult the data. So in the future, if we want to get access to the data via an application, we could also do this rather than just going on the site and clicking through the menus. So that was kind of like the idea behind the tool, is continue the work that Mike started, trying to keep it up to date, but also making it a little bit more, 2025, I guess.
Well, so you started with Mike Albano's database, and his database, again, a lot of us have used it for many, many years now to look up capabilities. It's very Excel grid-like and has columns and rows and pretty easy to understand. That's just the starting point. What other places did you ingest information from?
Yeah, so I started to look at, where do we get our client data from? And what I did is I ended up looking at the product finder from the Wi-Fi Alliance. And the Wi-Fi Alliance, for every device that they test, they publish some sort of certificate or statistics about which Wi-Fi Alliance certification is supported by the device. And this information is public. They call it the product finder. And on the product finder on the Wi-Fi Alliance website, you can download all of their device capabilities as a CSV file, right? So I did this, and the CSV file was like multiple meg. I forgot, like 15 meg of a CSV file. Tells you how big that was. Um, and then and then I started to look at the data that I got from there. Um, and it was interesting because some of the, like, it was giving me some interesting data, like frequency support, Wi-Fi version support, Wi-Fi security support, but not everything was there. Like, we didn't have information regarding spatial streams or channel width support, some of the things that we might be interested in. So not everything was there, but the value of the Wi-Fi Alliance is that we have a lot of devices. I think I've downloaded 50,000 devices from the Wi-Fi Alliance list. And that's not even everything they have, because you can sort it by category. And I've excluded like access points, and they have an other category. I've excluded the smart TVs as well. So I've included like things that we would see most of the time, laptops, phones, and so on. And so that's like the biggest portion of the data that we put into the database is coming from the Wi-Fi Alliance. Um, and I'm hoping that in the future we can get even more data from the Wi-Fi Alliance, because I believe Wi-Fi Alliance, they don't maybe, publicly publish everything, all the capabilities, but maybe one day they could use the API and then send more data. I actually met a guy that works for the Wi-Fi Alliance that was in my deep dive at WLPC, and then he's like, "We should talk, and maybe we can make it happen." So
You're like,
uh,
yes, let's talk. We can talk. And
yeah.
the Wi-Fi Alliance is looking to. I know they have some legal reasons why they can't share everything, but they have a
Mhm.
lot of information, and they want client devices to work, and this is one way we help them work better.
I've also learned in the process that the Wi-Fi Alliance with specific devices and specific device manufacturers, they don't publish the data. So that's why on the product finder you don't have all of the devices. It's because some manufacturers, they ask the Wi-Fi Alliance not to publish that information.
And of course they can't because they've been asked. That just makes
Yeah.
sense. Where else did you get some information about clients?
And then we also started to look at the client data sheets, specification sheets. So some clients are actually or some manufacturers are really good at providing data. So
Tell me you didn't
the
do 50,000 data sheets.
no, no, we did. I would say we did about maybe 100.
Well, that's still a
Um,
lot of work.
Yeah, but that's where, I wasn't alone. My colleague, helped me with this, and that's where I'm also helping for the community to get involved. Because if everyone kind of does the work, then it makes it easier on us. My goal was to provide the platform uh, and a way for people to upload the data and maintain that over time. And I'm hoping that people will get involved. And actually, I was very surprised because I got, a lot of, like you said, a lot of positive feedback from the presentation. And I have people that came to me and they're like, "Oh, for my work, we tested, so many devices. I need to ask my boss, but I'll be willing to upload that to the site." And it's great if people do this and they upload data to the site, then it's gonna be beneficial for everyone. um, and also what I try to do is, I try to add a little bit more data than what we typically look at when we look at Wi-Fi clients devices. So I'm trying to also add information that can be useful for Wi-Fi design. So, signal strength, minimum signal strength required by the manufacturer. Sometimes we can get things like roaming thresholds, roaming delta that can help us fine tune roaming. So I'm trying to add that to the database when we find it. I'm also trying to add documentation from vendors. Some vendors, they will tell you, if you want my device to have a good experience on the Wi-Fi, please follow these guidelines. So I'm trying to add these URLs as well to the database. So when you look for a client, you get a pretty nice view of what you need to do to make it work for that client. Yeah.
You also have, number of spatial streams, how much,
Mhm.
20, 40, 80, 160 support for channel widths, a lot of things that are really helpful. I think when we started with Michael Habano's grid spreadsheet, we're kind of limited by the columns. It looks to me like your API driven version allows for a much more flexible database.
Yeah, so what we did is we started by creating the database structure. So we defined, okay, what do we want to see in the database? We created that. And then for the UI, we organized it in 3 sections. So we have the first section, which is like the main capabilities: frequency support, channel width, number of special stream, support for KVRW, and all of these items in the table. And then in the second section, we have the data rate supported by the device. So this was actually something we did last year for WLPC that we integrated into that client tool. And it will just give you the data rate. So like a subset of the MCS table, because the MCS table now, it's huge. So it's not very convenient to look at, but now when you select a device on the new site, it will give you a subset of that MCS table and tell you the data rates that that specific device will support. And you can even filter. This is where you can filter by per channel width and so on. So that's the second section. And the third section is additional information. That's where we put links to the manufacturer, design information, for some devices, the latest drivers versions. And so we have that third section that we add. So
Is that
so what? Yeah.
is that third section kind of ad hoc or
Yeah.
because do you carry primary RSSI for everything, or is that just kind of a note?
So I don't know yet how we're going to deal with this. What I've done is I've used vendor documentation to put that data in. And so that's why you'll see that that third section is not there all the time. Majority of the clients do not have it because that's something that we have to add. So it's like an additional thing that we have to add to the database. That's going to be one of the challenge with the database is that not all clients will have the same set of data attached to them. Because for some clients we'll have more data that are provided by the manufacturer, and for some other devices we just have the data from the Wi-Fi lines. So this is one thing you'll notice going through the site and taking a look at different clients. So you'll see that some clients have a little bit more data because we fed that data into it, and that's going to be the main challenge of this is to gonna have to maintain that data in the database. And so once again, that's where I'm hoping that the community participate and help us achieve that goal. Yeah.
I'm looking at. I just happened to pull up an Apple iPhone
Mhm.
16, just because I've got one, and noticing the features it supports 2, 4, 5, and 6, the channel width, spatial streams, the transmit, max power, all that. What is the NAN category?
Yeah. So that's when you see the site is in beta right now. So this is the Wi-Fi version. And also, I wanted to, you see the BE right now, I wanted to change that to Wi-Fi 7. And then also the last one, the last NA you see is the source, because we wanted to also tell people where we got the information from. So if we got the information from the Wi-Fi Alliance, we're going to have the Wi-Fi Alliance as a source. If it comes from Mike Albano's website, it's going to say mikealbanos.com. If it comes from us, it's going to say Sympheo Networks. And then if people submit something, then we'll use that person's name as the source, so we can have an understanding of where it's coming from. This is more to maintain the database.
Were you
Yeah.
also able to get FCC data?
We haven't looked into that yet, but that's something I kind of discovered during the conference as well. So we'll see how we can get that data in. The problem with FCC, it needs a little bit more work because the data is there, but they are different places.
They're not going to
Yeah.
give you a CSV file for it.
Well, they're going to give us multiple CSV files.
Not quite as
So
easy as the other.
maybe,
Well,
yeah.
how do you use this in your work with Sympheo?
Yeah, so the way I would use this is either if I'm designing a Wi-Fi network, trying to understand, okay, which devices are we designing the Wi-Fi for? This is typically what we call the LCMI, the least capable, most important device. And if you understand, what this client needs to operate properly on the Wi-Fi, then you can take important design decisions to make sure you're designing the network properly for that device. So that's one way you can use this data to make sure that you're designing the Wi-Fi properly for your critical client devices. And another way you can use the data is if you're doing troubleshooting, if you're troubleshooting specific client devices, it's very useful to understand what a client can and cannot do, so you can better troubleshoot the problem and understand the root cause of the issue. So that's the way this data could be useful, is to make sure the devices works properly when you design the Wi-Fi, and also fix the issues when they do not work properly.
I remember talking to Mike when he first made his. He was working at a university and he needed to know which DFS channels he could use in his designs because some clients didn't support specific
Mhm.
channels. And so he kind of just started saying, well, if there's a predominance of some Chromebook someplace that doesn't support channel 149, we probably shouldn't have 149 in that area of the building. And it kind of escalated from there. So now we have not just the channels, but bands. I kind of like the BE rather than Wi-Fi 7, but maybe both.
We have both in the database, so maybe we can put both in the UI.
I, as time goes on, I think there's fewer and fewer of us are we'll call them by the BE or the AZ, whatever. It's
Mhm.
yeah,
The
we'll just have to go to the Wi-Fi 7, however much it pains us.
the
Well,
BE is good for people in Belgium, right? They have
yeah,
their own version of Wi-Fi.
yeah, it's just for them. In developing this database, you pulled all this data in. How would someone like those you met at the conference who said they have some extra data, how would they contribute to this kind of
Yes.
public service, this community thing?
So we have two ways of doing it. You can do it directly from the UI. So if you go on the website, we'll give the URL, but it's clients.semfio-apps.com. You can log in, and there's a tab called Upload Data. And so on that tab, you can download a CSV template that gives you the right columns to feed, and you can feed your client data and then re-upload it on the site. So that's kind of like a manual approach of uploading the client data to the site. And then on our end, we have like an admin dashboard that us see all of the submissions, and we can approve or we can decline them depending on the data that's provided. And we've also implemented an API. And I can also send you the link so you can share it in the show notes. But with the API, you can directly, with an API call, provide the client data in a JSON format, and this will end up into the submission bucket as well. And we can sit on the admin portal, and we can decide the same thing to add to approve it or decline it.
Can someone also use the API to do a pull the other way? I'm
Yes.
looking for a Apple iPad with this version, and then
Yeah.
does it support 160 kind of question?
Yeah. In the other way, it would be more uh, multiple API calls. The first one would be, can you show me all of the vendors that you have in the database? And then you specify a vendor, and then you ask, can you show me all of the devices? And then once you have the devices you selected, then it will send all of the client capabilities of that specific device. So it would be like 3 calls. Um,
So the API will
and
work just like the interface does now.
yes, yes,
Okay, let's take someone who's never used your site. They
yeah,
hit your site the first time. You are asking for you want them to log in.
yes.
Why?
Um, yes. So first, I wanted to explain why did we add a login page, because I know Mike's website was kind of open public, and so the reason why we added a login page, it's because we started playing with AI, and we added like an AI assistant. It's still very much work in progress, but we added an AI assistant on the site as well, and you can ask the AI information about client devices, even Wi-Fi design. It's gonna help you in the process. But that AI agent talks to ChatGPT, and we are the one paying for these exchanges at the moment. So we didn't want anyone to be able to just go there, or any bot to just use it. So that's why we added like a login page. So you can register for free, though. You can go on the website clients.semfio-apps.com. You create an account. All you need is an email address and a password. It will then send you an email with a one-time password to enter to activate your account, and then you have access to the database. We also needed the authentication for the API, because when you send something via the API, it's much better if you have authentication. It makes it easier to sort the data that comes in. So that's the reason why we use the authentication. Maybe like in the future, we'll make it easier so you can use your Google account and stuff like this. But that's,
It
yeah.
wasn't difficult. It was just one of those. Oh, it looks like it has some gate, but it's a
Yeah.
very easy gate to go through. So after you've logged in, what do you see?
After you logged in, you'll have this page that's called Wi-Fi client data. And all you see is a drop-down menu that asks you to select a device make. We call it a device make, so the vendor. And then you select the device make. So we can take Apple as an example. And as soon as you've selected a make, then you'll have a second drop-down menu that pops up on the right that asks you to select a device from that vendor. And you'll see all of the devices from that vendor in the database available to you. And you can just type, if you're just looking for the iPhone 16, you can type 16, and then the iPhone 16 will pop up. You select it, and then the data will show up for the iPhone 16.
And wonderful data. I think I like the links best. But I think I'll go here instead of trying to find where I saved that link last, because I know it's always going to be there. This is a great thing for the community. One of the other things that the community projects is the WMPI, and I know you've worked with them. In the WMPI project, they have a profiler that you run on the Pi, then you have a client associate, and it kind of lies. It makes a super beacon AP. That's not true, but it says I'm like 8x8 AP with all these super benefits to kind of trick the client into telling the truth when it sends back its response. Can you ingest those profiles that come from the WMPI project?
So we have two ways of doing this. We could ingest those profiles, or on the Profiler app, they could use the API call that we built to send the data as a JSON payload. So that would be two ways of approaching it. With Profiler, the thing is, the user would have to provide a bit more information, because when you use Profiler, as a user, you know which device you're testing because you have it in hand. But now if you need to send that data somewhere else, you're going to have to specify, okay, I was testing an iPhone 16. So we'll need to ask the user for a bit more data in order to send it to the database. But I think that's something that can be done with Profiler. And I think it would make sense, because right now the data from Profiler is just saved locally on the WMPI. But I think it would make sense if there's also a feature to kind of export that data and put it into the database.
Maybe on your upload portion, you could send a same like you have the current template, but a template for Profiler, because someone needs to add that extra information. And you know the rest of Profiler, but you don't know the who sent it and the actual device.
And also we could also do like the association request. It's kind of like Mike had on his side. You could upload the association request, which you also get from the Profiler if you want to. So we could do it that way as well. Yeah.
Well, this has been fantastic. I'll definitely link to your presentation and to the sites of how they can do this. If someone wanted to track down Francois and Semfio, where would they find you?
I've been active on LinkedIn lately, so you can go on LinkedIn and find me, Francois Verges. You'll probably find me. That's like the best place to find me nowadays.
And you also have a podcast. Go ahead and talk about your podcast.
Yes, I do. I have a podcast called Clear to Send Podcast. I do that with Roel Dionisio, and you can listen to it on any platform you want, Clear to Send. And we also have a website called cleartosend.net. You can find all of the previous episodes we've done in the past.
Thanks for your time today, Francois. You've been listening to another episode of Heavy Wireless, part of the Packet Pushers podcast network. If you want to leave any comments, just go out to the Packet Pushers website. And if you have ideas of other content you'd like to see, just please let me know. Thanks for listening.